What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Cool Colas here, and you are now tuning into a new video on my channel. But before we go on to the topic for today, I would love for you to do a few things. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, hit the bell icon so you get notifications for whenever I come out with new content on this channel. And then when you are finished watching this video, leave me a comment below. That way I can get back to whatever it is that you had to say. For today's video topic, we need to talk about y'all's boy Tyler Perry. I don't know if y'all saw the interview that he had with Keke Palmer recently, but your mans was sounding real tender. I don't know what was up with him, but we really need to get into all of that. For those of you all who did not see the video, I'll give you the very quick synopsis of what happened. Tyler Perry was showing his frustration with a lot of the criticism that he's been receiving on not just Divorce in the Black, but also the catalog of films and things that he's actually put out there. He's gotten a lot of criticism from the Black community, and he expressed some of his frustrations with the fact that people were talking about the things that he was doing wrong with the whole thing, with all of his movies and things like that. And that's not what the whole interview was about, but I want to specifically focus on his little tender bitch fit that he had. Like many others, I've been pretty critical of Tyler Perry, and you can go all over my social media page and you can see where I pointed out some of my problems with the things that he's done, both inside the studio and his work and even outside and the things that he said publicly. But we really need to dive deep into what the real problems are, and also my thoughts on this rant that Tyler Perry had. From my perspective, I'm going to take this from a different angle than where a lot of people have taken this conversation and the rant. I feel that Tyler Perry is actually very intelligent, and he's doing what an intelligent businessman would do. He is hammering down and stomping down on being devoted to his target audience. So what I mean by that is, and I've said this before, there are three types of people that Tyler Perry is pandering to when it comes to the content that he makes. And that is the old nigga class, the shea butter samba class, and lastly, it is the class of simple-minded Negroes who really just want to watch something that has their face on it, and they don't care if it's good, they don't care if it's bad, they just want to call it black. These are the three types of people who are the most interested. And the stuff that he said during this interview pandered to all of those people all at the same time. I believe that Tyler Perry knows this, and this is the reason why he made this billion-dollar industry, because he was able to cater to individuals who fit this description. And even in his interview, he's doubling down on the fact that these are the people that he's appealing to. That's why he said that a lot of his stories are related to, people who basically weren't quote unquote highbrow, people who, they grew up poor, they grew up with all these situations that were toxic and all this other stuff. So he believes that he's pandering to normal, average, everyday black folks, and that's the product that he's making. But his interview, from my perspective, was pandering to that crowd still, although it's clear that that's what his movies were doing. And because there are so many people who, again, fit the bill, they made this man very wealthy. Now, I will give him props for that because that was intelligent. But just because I'm giving him props for his intellect doesn't mean that I'm going to excuse his lack of integrity. So let's talk about it for a second. The first problem that I had with Tyler Perry is that he's just a problem when it comes to him being a writer. He's also a problem from a political standpoint. I mean, Tyler Perry was out here promoting the you-know-what and whatnot in 2020. So it shows you how willing he would be to capitulate to the agendas of the dominant society if it serves his purpose and if it serves making his image good or continuing to keep his image good. The other thing that I don't like about Tyler Perry too is that he talked about how he does not want to show his kid, he doesn't want to tell his young kid about racism. So I wasn't really feeling that as well too, because from my perspective, if you're a black person with that much wealth, you should have the integrity to try to do something that is not just codified, but to show people the person that you are. Now, again, some of it kind of goes into what I call the black insider spy hustle, which is when a black person does a lot of buck dancing and pandering and all this other shit in order to stay in the good graces of the dominant society, to make their money so they can later do something that's very codified. So we saw these actions with people like Michael Jackson and Prince. They had certain behaviors and a certain aesthetic that made other, even white folks, comfortable with what they were doing. But on the back end, they were doing a lot of codified things. Like, you know, for example, Michael was trying to get Marvel Comics and Universal Studios, and he owned 50% of Sony and all this other stuff. And then you had Prince, who was doing a lot of really codified things as well too. But again, their aesthetic made them seem like they really weren't, you know, the type of black person who would be doing these pro-black things that I basically described. Now, when it comes to Tyler Perry, I don't really think that he's on that same wave per se. So I'm not going to give him the benefit of the doubt to say, oh, I think that he's also doing the black insider spy hustle. I believe that he is just somebody who is off code and is trying to be a personal success for him. The other thing about Tyler Perry is, dude, you're acting more mad at black folks who are not part of those categories I named, because of the fact that we criticized your films and the way that you move and the way that you behave. But you have no smoke for the white supremacists in the dominant society. What I mean by that is, I mean, yeah, we criticized Divorcing the Black, but we criticized a lot of other movies too, right? But Rotten Tomatoes were the ones who made your shit a 0%. And it didn't seem like you had any smoke for them, because why else would you say that you were mad about people criticizing the film when typically white people are not really watching your film? Now, Rotten Tomatoes might, because they reveal every movie and that type of thing, but you're literally catering to black people. So when you talk about these criticisms that you're seeing, you're really talking about us. You're not talking about the dominant society, and we all know it. And we can tell by the things that you said during that interview with Keke Palmer. And my thing is, I mean, if you say whatever you want, Tyler Perry. If you're calling me highbrow, I'm taking that as a compliment, because I simply don't want to be the simple-minded Negro who's falling for your tricks. So, you can get out of here with that bullshit. How about that? The other thing about Tyler Perry is that he really isn't showing a true record of being codified when it comes to the way that he treats black people. What I mean by that is, if you look at a lot of people, they always like to project this thing of, oh, he made a lot of jobs for black people and all this other stuff. But if you really dig deep, you will find that Tyler Perry actually was underpaying a lot of his workers, and those who were big time stars and things like that, they may have been doing okay and whatnot, but they knew what was going on, and they weren't trying to out him at the stake of possibly losing opportunities themselves. So you know how it goes. If they believe that somebody has a certain amount of power, then they believe that if they say something or go against the grain, that it could be hard for them to be able to garner other opportunities because of what they chose to do and how they chose to speak out. So it's all about the integrity, as I said before. The other thing about Tyler Perry that I just simply do not like is that when it comes to his work, it's just terrible. I mean, let's be honest. His work is not good. Tyler Perry is not creative. Tyler Perry is not a good writer. And when it comes to his production and the way that people look on screen and things like that, that doesn't even look good as well, too. But ultimately, his storytelling is just poor. And there's different ways that we're going to need to break this down. So I'm going to try to go through each of them without spending a lot of time talking about this topic, because there's so much that we can dive into. But the first problem with his storytelling is that he puts a lot of tropes in his movies. I mean, and his TV shows as well, too. And this is the most obvious thing, right? He has a lot of portrayals of black men and black women that are negative. A lot of negative stereotypes about us in our community that really shouldn't be portrayed on screen the way that it is. The second problem with Tyler Perry is that everything he does is super repetitive. He tells the same type of story over and over and over again. And I think that the audience gets tired of that after a while. So that's why I said that the people who he appeals to likes the idea that it's just somebody who is black and who is on screen. So simple-minded Negroes probably are going to be the ones who are most likely to want to continue to watch this regardless of what it looks like. The third thing that I noticed about Tyler Perry's writing that I really don't like is that not only does he put a lot of tropes in there, he also makes certain things beyond belief in order to shy away from bigger messages and bigger issues. So for example, one thing I noticed about Tyler Perry's movies is that he tends to make this black person, specifically a black man, an overt villain. And he's usually dark skinned. Sometimes he's not, but he's usually darker skinned. And he's like an overt villain. And it's almost not even believable the way that he's telling the story about this villain. And most of the time, although that black man may be a villain, in a lot of cases, the real villain of that movie is usually a black woman. So it's usually somebody's mama or a black woman who's done something that was scurvy or that type of thing. When he makes black women the villain of these different flicks, I noticed that usually the villain is the white supremacist. So usually it's something that's very trauma-y or trauma-esque. And the reason why all the problems exist is because of the dominant society and the way that they have oppressed these different communities. And what they tend to do, and they do this in a lot of trauma porn movies anyway, trauma porn, trauma sauce movies and TV shows, is they show you the results of people who are just trying to survive in a dilapidated area because of what the dominant society has done to it, where black people exist. So what they tend to do is they show you a hero in the hood and a villain in the hood, and they both are black, instead of showing you that the reason why we even have this scenario was because the dominant society has destroyed this black community and has put a lot of drugs and a lot of harmful foods and guns and things like that into the neighborhood so that this can become a big old circus. So that's why I say, like, it either tends to be a thing where the black man is portrayed as a villain and it's really a black woman, or the black woman is the villain and it's either like the white supremacist or an old nigga or something like that. So he tends to do stuff like that as well too. And it's kind of like the same thing with the old school classic black movies. Like when you watch movies like The Wood and you watch movies like Love and Basketball and Boys in the Hood and those types of things, a lot of times they portray someone as the villain. It's usually some dude in the hood or some dude in a gang or that type of thing. And it's usually somebody else who causes bigger issues, or they ignore an issue that is very significant. I'll put it to you like that. And so that brings me to another issue that I have with Tyler Perry's movies, which are that when you look at the totality of it, it's almost as if he is not trying to make something better. Right. And so what he said in this interview actually solidified that, because he doubled down on it, because he was telling the so-called highbrow Negroes to get out of here with that bullshit, because those were his exact words. So like I said, dude was throwing a damn tantrum. He had his panties in a bunch. So that's the reason why I say that at the end of the day, the real issue is that his writing is bad for multiple reasons. I mean, just think about it, y'all. Tyler Perry called us highbrow Negroes. That's how you know that he is talking specifically about us, and he really doesn't have that same smoke for the dominant society. I mean, you can even tell just in the way that he writes his films and his TV shows that he has a certain level of trying to protect the dominant society, because every time he always either writes a white person as a helpless victim, like he did in Divorcing a Black, when he had old girl in the supermarket and she was afraid of the big bad Negro who was attacking old girl's mama, or he has them be sidekicks to black people who seem to be on code with us. And the last thing that he may do, this is the last thing I've seen he may do, sometimes he will make a white person seem racist, but he'll do one or two things with them. He'll either try to make it seem like they are not the problem, or he will try to make a joke out of their racism. And I noticed that when you watch it, because even if you watch stuff like Why Did I Get Married? I want to say it was Why Did I Get Married 2, when they were at, or no, it was the first Why Did I Get Married, actually. They, there was a scene where they were somewhere shopping, and then this white woman, they being like the wives, they were at this shopping store, this store to shop at. And there was this white woman who was being racist and who was profiling them. They kind of made a joke out of it because I think they had this thing where Angela was about to get real ghetto and all this other stuff. So the point I'm trying to make, though, is that he tends to do stuff like that. He tends to kind of protect the dominant society. You even have it where, like, I think in the Why Did I Get Married 2, the two gay white dudes, they were talking real slick, about Angela when she was acting ghetto on the plane as well, too. So they do a lot. He does a lot with the dominant society, trying to protect them as well. So it's clear that his smoke is really for black folks and not even for white folks. So that's how you can kind of tell, what type of person that Tyler Perry is. The other thing that we really need to talk about when it comes to Tyler Perry, if we're just, being honest here, is that Tyler Perry is doing something that I hate to see in creators. As a creator myself, my whole thing is, you're not working for me. I'm working for you. You as my audience. I want you all to be entertained and even be educated by the things that I put out. I want you to find it to be quality. You spend your hard-earned money to consume the things that I make, whether it be a book, whether it be a comic book, and one day for me, whether it's a TV show or a movie. I want to make sure that those things are quality every single time. Yes, I may make money here and there, but ultimately I want the satisfaction of the people who I'm trying to give this product to. As a creator, you are supposed to take criticism and look at the things that make sense and look at the things that don't and filter them as such. But ultimately, you are supposed to listen to the things that your audience is asking you to do to make it better. And that's what black people have been doing. They've been asking Tyler Perry to make his product better because of all the issues that I had just discussed. But instead, what does he do as a creator? He decides to get very defensive and he decides to get bitchy. I told my friends in the Blur chat this recently, but when I say recently, I mean like somewhere between the end of 2023 and the beginning of 2024. I said 2024 is going to be the year of the shea butter samba. But what I did not expect was that 2024 was going to be the year that black men start acting like shea butter sambas. And Tyler Perry is definitely setting the tone for that, because this rant was some bitch shit. Y'all know it was. I know it was. That's just the bottom line. And let's just be real. Tyler Perry doesn't make anything that's stellar. I mean, literally, even the projects of his that were better weren't stellar. They were just okay, and they were considered good to most people because it was new, it was fresh, and it was coming off the hype of the plays that a lot of people enjoyed. But let's be real, y'all. Most of the time when we watch Tyler Perry movies, if we watch them at all, it's when we cleaning up the crib. We're vacuuming the living room or dusting or some shit. Those are the only times where we really watch it. Your movies, Tyler Perry, are basically background noise because it's shit that they play on BET over and over and over fucking again. That's the reality of the way that black people actually view your content. How do you not understand that? Matter of fact, let me not even say that. I know he understands that. I think the reality is that he's pandering to his audience, and that's just not going to change. So let me just be honest there. I think he does kind of understand that. But realistically, I think that we still need to dissect what he said there. It's important that we need to look at all of the different issues with his statement and his rant. And ultimately, if you are a black creator, I encourage you to use Tyler Perry as a template of how not to be. We as black creators, especially black male creators, have a duty to uphold integrity. And that means creating things that are great, phenomenal, and put black people in the light that they deserve to be in. Not to continue to make the minstrel show stereotypes that continue to perpetuate the things that we still see in the dominant society. That is the type of stuff that we need to support. We do not need any more Tyler Perry. So if you are somebody who plans to do something constructive and put out, entertainment, different movies, different TV shows and that type of thing, please don't be a Tyler Perry, because you're going to end up a defensive bitch that nobody truly respects, unless we're talking about how much money you made off of stupid people. Anyway, y'all, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed what I had to say. There's definitely going to be a lot more content to come, so make sure that you stay tuned. Other than that, I hope y'all have a good rest of y'all's day, and I'll talk to you later. Peace.